Stuart, I'll start the ball rolling in the live section. There's a great buzz around. You can feel it when you come in. Building site's fully. We've had a full tour.
What's it like? I've not been in it yet.
Well, they put a hard hat on you. But I suppose it's all about Saturday night for the players and the coaches. So how has the preparation gone?
No, it's been good. Obviously, I sort of came in as head coach, I guess, relatively late in terms of the planning. So, the squad was done, the coaching and the management team was done, but really enjoyed meeting everyone. From a staffing point of view, great staff. Important for me and Rod to be on the same page. Obviously, John and Cully were here last year, so picking up lots of useful information from them about last year and their experiences as well. Cully obviously went on the Ireland tour. So management team, it's all about alignment, which we did early. And then it was a great block, the first block, because we had the Lions boys obviously were away and the international players were still in that sort of Portugal-Georgia tour. So a great chance to work with some young players. So I was pleased with the first block. And then obviously we needed some games, and the games have gone well. Bristol weren't at full strength, obviously, but still put 50 points of them away from home, and we put 40 points on sale. So if you'd have said, what I asked for, that's what I would have asked for. But as you say, it's pre-season, you know what I mean? So the true test comes this Saturday, but also for the next five weeks.
And are you happy with what you're saying?
Yeah. No, I always believed coming in that the foundations were strong. I think. Credit to Pete and Mark Sexton, Scott Fardy, these guys who are here. I always felt Connacht had a high ceiling, and last year, I think they were frustrated with themselves really that they didn't achieve more. But if you look at the metrics of line breaks, defenders beaten, etc., it was a really, really strong part of Connacht's game, the attack. The bits that I felt needed to balance out was obviously the defence, but also how we managed the game within the game. You know what I mean? The management of the game. So it's all very well having a great attacking mindset, but if you come 13th, then that's not the outcome we all want. Do you know what I mean? So there's been tweaks I've made to the foundations of the game, but within that, it's strong. You know what I mean? And I think the playing group, probably benefited from 3 British and Irish Lions players, those 6 lads going on the Ireland tour. So when I look at the depth of the squad and the quality of the young players that have trained with us, I'm happy with the squad and happy with the staff. So all good so far.
Yeah, well, results. But are you seeing the positivity that I'm in over here? You can feel. Just feels very different. I suppose the stadium's going to open, and
it's hard to judge for me because I wasn't here last year, but I'd like to think that. Certainly, the way in which we've trained. I remember arriving in Leinster it was September 2016, having Connacht beaten Leinster in the final, and it feels very similar to that start, to be honest, where some tweaks to how we train, bringing a few Tuesdays in, and some of my experiences of. Obviously been at Leinster, coaching England, and probably as relevantly been in France as well. I think the players have enjoyed a fresh approach to training and to how we play the game and understanding the game. So I think that has been a real positive. You can feel the energy. It's a good group. Could only select 23 for this weekend, but my intention is to rotate the team during these first 5 games to give us a chance to see everyone, but also we've got to win games as well.
You mentioned kind of trying to sort out defence being a big thing. In terms of your coaching, who's taking the lead on that? Is that going to be yourself?
Yeah. So it's basically the same sort of coaching environment, I guess, that we've had at Leinster. So Billy's obviously, takes charge of the bigger picture stuff in the way that we'll be obviously very hands-on as well. But if you imagine my relationship with Andrew Goodman or Felipe, that's the same relationship that I have with Rod. And you've got your Sean O'Brien and Robin McBride, for example, with Cully and John Muldoon. So it's a similar framework in terms of management. So I would look after, as being the head coach, the sort of phase attack, phase defence, and all the bigger picture stuff. And then the 3 assistant coaches like fill in the detail around that. So Rod would take the backs units, for example. Cully and John would take the forwards units. But the overall big picture of how we defend, our defensive system, our policy, our ability to practice defence within training sessions, the content of training sessions, I'd still have a very strong hands-on on that role. And one of the big difference between here and France, for example, is there was no Billy in France, and there was no Tim, and so it definitely has helped a lot to come in to be able to come back to the rugby rather than trying to deal with a lot of things at the same time in French.
In terms of general housekeeping for kind of this week and the next few weeks, first of all, any players carrying injuries into this week, like have you a clean bill of health? And then when are we likely to see Bundy and Mac back out and Finlay as well? Yeah,
reasonably clean bill of health. There's one or two little ones, but not many. Like we had 45 training today. It's a great number. The Lions boys, they're sort of targeting rounds 3 and 4. Obviously, Mac's still sort of ongoing in terms of recovery from his foot injury, but you saw him out there. I presume you saw him out there, did you? Or maybe you didn't. He's running. Okay, they're just like dots there. Yeah, he's running around out there. He's not actually done a session yet, but he's closed Bundy's training, Finley's training. So they'll be back soon. So no, we're in good shape. Harry West got a soft tissue injury, but he's virtually there now. I'm trying to think if there's any others. We've got picked up an injury in the Eagles game. We played the Ulster on Friday night in the Eagles game, picked up an injury there, but no, we're good, we're in good shape.
Stuart, could you take us maybe back to kind of when the decision was made? Like, it's a big coup for kind of to get you out here out west as well, and there's a lot of buzz around it, but like maybe the phone calls you got, and did it come as a surprise to you to hear they were looking for you, and how it all kind of played out in the space of a few days?
It was the sort of timeline of events went, I left Racing, and the day after I got a phone call from Australia and from the headhunters who were looking for the Wales, director of rugby or head coaching job. So I was pretty burnt, to be honest. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do next, other than I was leaving France. So anyway, that period, that was sort of like late February, to be honest. So February, March, April, really, so I was very much involved in the interview process for the Australia role. And then that changed because Joe decided to stay on, and, Les Kiss came into the equation, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then, I was asked this question, I think you might have asked me the question, John, when I came to watch Racing play against Connacht because Dan, my son, was playing for Racing at the time. And it was that day Nina came across with me. And I said, God, we miss Ireland, don't we? And it just so happened off the ball that asked for an interview for the following Wednesday, and it was all coincidence. So, and I was asked the question in that interview, would you ever come back to Ireland? I said, yeah, no, I never left on bad terms. We really enjoyed our time here. You never say never, let's see what happens, And just at the same time, David Humphries has been in contact to say, can we have a catch-up? I hadn't actually spoken to him. And within the same window, Willie rang me and left me a message, said, do you fancy a chat? And so David's conversation was more like, what do you think about coming back to Ireland? And I said, yeah, no, I'm definitely open-minded. What about CONNACHT? And Willie then followed that up with, what about CONNACHT? And I said the same thing to both of them. I said, listen, yeah, 100% I'd consider it. It's we loved our time here. It'd be a great opportunity for me and Nina, and because when I was in Leinster, I was living on my own. I was doing the commute or getting back to Leeds as best I can, but the kids are 24 and 25 now, so. And we very much saw it as a family decision, but also a rugby one. And the rugby one was an easy one for me because it was a chance to coach full time in a club environment that I knew good people, a great place to live, etc. So it didn't take a huge amount of persuading for me to sort of put my hat in the ring. And then I got interviewed and I presented to the interview panel. And not long after that, they offered the role, and here we are.
And then just a quick one for me, if you don't mind. Let's say, over the years, because considering all the deeds over at Leinster as well, and the kind of past international experience, was there ever kind of opportunities to kind of maybe coach in England? Were you ever tempted by that? And did anything kind of get far down the line?
There was a lot of rumours. I mean, there was a lot of rumours at the time, even when I was in France, about, well, one was about coming to Munster, there was no foundation to that, and then obviously linked with other clubs in England, and then when I was out of work, there were jobs that were potentially coming up, and Leicester Tigers as an example, but it never went anywhere. You know, I never interviewed, never spoke to anyone in any detail, because it has to work both ways, doesn't it? It has to work. You know, you've got to, back to the Wayne Bennett quote, you have to 100% want to go there, and you have to 100% want you to come. You know, from my point of view, coming back to Ireland was an easy decision for me, and Connacht were keen for me to come, and so then obviously once that was done, and then it was a matter of getting hold of Rod, he was in the Brumbies at the time, and chatting to him about, you know, what he was looking for, and trying to get to know all the staff, all the S&C, the medical team. Alan came in as a new head of S&C. So yeah, no, I'm super excited to be here, loving it, coaching every day, good group, ready to go.
Just on the young players who have gone away international experience for the first time, everyone's after squad.
Say again, sorry?
Just for like a lot of younger players this year going international experience for the first captain somewhere like
yeah, I mean, you can see, you know, when players go away to international camps or international environments, they definitely come back with an increased level of self-confidence and self-belief, and part of the challenge for me, or the motivation, is to increase the self-confidence, self-belief of this team. And you know, those players that have done that, I think they're definitely, you can see that. But also, there's a group of players who are younger than those players, they're the ones who I think we've integrated. And I think one of the lessons from Leinster, you know, people say about Leinster's production line, but the production line works through the schools, through the clubs, into the sub-academy, into the academy, into the professional team. But the integration is because we seamlessly would rotate the players in and out of training. They'll be allowed to train, they'd come to city meetings, and that's exactly the same process as we've done here. So when I've been looking at these 19, 20-year-olds who haven't maybe played for Ireland 20s yet, they're in our meetings, you know, they're in our training sessions, and they're growing their knowledge and experience. It's through the roof, really, what they're learning. So that's that gives me great confidence for the future of Connacht, because I know the quality of the players that I'm coaching. I can compare them. I'm comparing to English players I've coached, or French players I've coached, or Leinster players I've coached. And I know that certainly the players that I'm coaching, the youngest group, are as good as the other ones I've coached in other provinces or in other environments. So that's great. And it creates depth, and it creates challenge for players, because, you know, we've got a group of players who've been here a long time, a group of players who are getting slightly older, and we need pressure.
So, like, on the URC in general, how much do you think it's developed as a league? Like, 4 winners the last 4 years, do you think it's getting harder and harder to see?
It's definitely also bringing in the South African teams and what they've done in terms of changing their dynamic, how different defensive systems operate now. So you've got like a South African blitz defence, obviously you've got Leinster defending differently now. You've got the Welsh teams play a different way, Scottish teams play, Italian teams play this way. So there's a lot more variety in the URC than, say, the Premiership. Top 14 is a different animal altogether, and obviously relegation is a big factor in that. But I think when we looked at it statistically, you'd say the URC, because of the way the South African play the power game, it's probably closer to top 14 than it is Super Rugby or Premiership. So to that end, you know, we need to be able to compete physically, set piece-wise, and aerially, and in the territory game, as well as playing multi-phase rugby, you know, because you're not going to win the URC by just playing multi-phase rugby all the time. You'll get swallowed up, you know. So I think it is a different competition, and people probably don't give it the credit it deserves. The travel, the complexity of playing against teams from different countries. So it's a tough league. It's a tough league.
And you'd like Billy guys, or if you want to try?
Going to struggle. Yeah, but sorry.
Just, I would like to do Billy in here. Back to what Stuart was saying there about the pathways through from senior, from academy, from sub-academy, from 16s in the schools. What's your vision for the schools? Because the biggest issue with Connacht is that when you look at who came into the academy this year, a lot of those lads and lads are coming down, having come out of Leinster. and Leinster schools. Are you looking to perhaps create a program to increase the amount of players that we're producing from the clubs and the schools within the provinces?
Yeah, I think it's always in the conversation. Obviously, Joe looks after that club and community, but definitely working with Eric and starting to get a grip on what. I mean, I haven't been here since, what year was it? 2012, 10, 11, 12. We're starting to discuss that, the different dynamics in the school system here compared to Leinster and how we bridge that gap. So it's definitely in the conversation. What we're going to do, I think I need a little bit more time with Eric to work out where that leads. But yeah, it's definitely front and centre.
Well, we made a start. We've got a coach development evening this Wednesday. So we've got 50 coaches, I think, come in, who are all coaching at either, the top end of the club game or the schools in the Connacht region. So we're going to do a masterclass and try, and it's the same as what we did at Leinster, trying to. The trickle-down effect of coaching practice, is